Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. Hope everybody is staying safe and staying home or staying with all the social distancing needs. So today we're going to talk about how to orchestrate and self-serve F5s and how to enable service catalogs, and maybe, more importantly, how can you federate to different teams to use those, right? That's what we're going to focus on. So from an agenda perspective, we're going to talk about how traditional workflows, traditional task-based automation, how industry is shifting from that to more service orchestration, right? Where there are multiple services and how those are integrated, interdependent, and all that. We'll also talk about how AppViewX will enable service orchestration and what tool sets are there within AppViewX to enable that. We'll also look at AppViewX's service catalog capability, where you can define your own catalog for different personas, different users, different teams, and whatnot. And we will look at a couple of use cases with F5, so where F5 is the primary focus in this demo. We'll also look at the real product demo, and then we will allow some time for questions at the end. So let's jump in. The first thing is, when you look at traditional workflows, right? What is traditional workflows, and what is driving this adoption to a service orchestration? Right? That's what we need to quickly touch upon, right? When you look at the industry moving towards cloud or hybrid deployment, right? Especially during these COVID times, testing times, a lot of customers are moving towards a more self-service approach, cloud-based approach, cloud-first approach, and whatnot. More importantly, it's because you know, during these times, getting engineers connected and working with them and all that, and they having connectivity, all those becomes a challenge. So we are trying to avoid talking to people, right? Like if you are on WebEx or Zoom or GoToMeeting all day long, you don't want to, again, talk to more people to get things done, right? You want to self-serve yourself, right? And then there is also increased business agility. Business is looking to get things faster. The whole idea of DevOps and the movement of DevOps is how quickly can I deliver to the end customer, right? So with that, you know, one of the key aspects that we look at, how can we be more agile, both in terms of network services, and when we look at that as a whole, right, how can I be agile from an F5 perspective, right? Those are the things that are driving some of these transformations. And then enabling DevOps, right? Like DevOps, DevOps as a model is being adopted across various industries, right? How can we be an enabler to DevOps than a hindrance to DevOps, right? How can we make business to move faster? And then how can we enable better security and compliance with whatever we do? So we have been, if we were doing things manually, right, how can we enable security and compliance? How can we make it a lot more streamlined? All that are driving factors in a way, right? And then how can I enable collaboration between the teams? Collaboration doesn't mean, you know, getting on a phone and talking to each other, but then collaborate using the tools, right? And then optimize the operating expenses, right? How can we do that across different teams? These are some of the areas which are driving the traditional automation, which is more task-based automation, to a more orchestration approach or orchestration capability, right? So when we look at the differences between the traditional automation tools versus the service orchestration platform, right? The traditional, when we look at workflow automation, right? It's a linear start here. You start here, you end here, right? It's a clear linear approach, right? And usually it's a task-based automation. You want to create a config and you go implement those configurations. That's it, right? There is no course correction, there is no feedback loop, and those type of things, right? And usually it is vendor specific, right? You're not talking to 5 different vendors for setting up a particular intent, right? And then it basically doesn't understand or doesn't have the context of what is getting deployed or why we're doing that, those type of things. So it's basically anything you put in, it comes out, right, based on whatever is tooling that has been added. And then it becomes, it can quickly become unmanageable, right? Any script-based or very specific automation tasks, right, could become, easily when things change and the tooling changes, it becomes one, you have to constantly require a skill or a deep domain knowledge to manage that. And then when things change, right, it has to be maintained as well, right? When you look at the service orchestration platform, it's more full life cycle, it's more end-to-end, right? And especially multi-domain, multi-vendor, and talks to different vendors to orchestrate the whole process, right? It's more declarative, so or even intent-based, right? It takes what you want to do and then implements that across multiple vendors, and it's more intelligent and context-aware. It basically understands what is already deployed, and then based on that feedback loop, it takes some intelligent decisions also, right? And it's built to scale, especially in multi data center environments and hybrid environments and all that, right? And then for the operator, not necessarily, he doesn't need a domain understanding of what is going on, right? It's basically you set it and then operators or users use it. So it makes it a lot more easier for them to consume, right? Okay, so what Gartner is saying is, Gartner is looking at organizations, and what they are saying is 80% of organizations are moving to a more SOAP platform, right, which is a service orchestration automation platform, right? So it's a major change, it's a major shift that's coming to all the enterprises. So what is a SOAP platform? What is a service orchestration platform, right? And automation, right? So in a SOAP platform, right, there is definitely a workflow orchestration, which basically talks to different systems, REST API and all that, and then based on that, it takes decisions and acts on it and all that. Then there is event-driven automation, which is based on a specific task or specific activity and whatnot. It basically, is able to trigger a task or trigger a workflow or trigger some other orchestration system, right? Maybe like a CV is reported and you need to patch it, like in the recent F5 challenge, right? Like that, there could be various things, right? Or there's a CPU event reported. Based on that, you need to provision another server. So a lot of those things, it's basically event-driven closed-loop automation. And then there is monitoring, visibility, and alerting. So you basically, if you have a farm of 100 F5s, right? How do you manage? How do you know that everything is, running on all wheels? So basically, having that visibility, and then presenting you with intelligence as to what it finds, right? And then self-service automation. This is another important aspect, right? For users to consume, they don't have to talk to somebody, right? They can self-serve and do it on their own. Same thing with resource provisioning as well, right? Other one is the data flows, right? How do you manage the data? I mean, one is control side of it, and there is a data side of this. How do you manage it? All of this encompasses the service orchestration and automation platform, right? Now, how does AppViewX enable this? So AppViewX, by default, has the capability. We have an event-driven orchestration, so which is zero touch. It basically it is able to handle what is happening on the device, and it is able to take that data and intelligently orchestrate whatever needs to be done based on that, right? So in a hybrid, and it can support hybrid multi-cloud environment in a more vendor-agnostic way, right? So that's built-in capability as part of the product, right? You could be running, when I say hybrid multi-cloud, so in this context, right, you could be running F5s on AWS or Azure and GCP and whatnot, right? It can be anywhere. It could be running anywhere. It could be on your on-prem environment or your private cloud environment. We're able to manage all of those, right, irrespective of where they are, right? And we are able to automate the whole process. And then it's context aware, config aware, and state aware. What it means is how F5 is working on your endpoint. Well, what is the status of F5? What is the status of objects? How healthy it is, right? All that is able to identify. It has a very simple drag and drop capability. We'll quickly look on that, and it has reusable workflow. So each person or each endpoint can have a workflow, and that can be reused on a larger orchestration flow. We'll look at how that works as well. And then there is a service catalog. Now you can have a role-based service catalog, meaning a level 1 ops team. You can give them a certain set of self-service capabilities. Maybe he wants to create a DNS entry, a GTM entry, or a BIP or wide IP or whatnot. Or you can even give them access to do the maintenance tasks, which is taking a server down or renewing a certificate, those day-to-day tasks, updating a firmware, those type of things, very specific aspects, right, or some advanced capabilities also, right? Different teams can get different capabilities. And you can also restrict them as to which objects you want to see, which devices they can work on, could be dev or prod, group them, and a whole bunch of stuff. Similarly, app-centric visibility. When you say app-centric, we start all the way from the DNS to all the way to the server. So you can map all those, and then you can see end-to-end that for my application, all my configuration, I have full control and access to update or take a snapshot or backup of my application configuration. And then real-time monitoring, when I say that for the application as well, right, looking at the status statistics of my application, I'm able to see that in a lot better way and whatnot, right? And then pre and post validation, whenever you want to implement a change, basically it can go check all of that. And then again, compliance and audit, a whole bunch of capabilities there if you want to be compliant to a certain standard in this, either enterprise standard or industry standard and whatnot. So the way AppViewX works is it works as a master orchestrator. There are different ways you can consume or you can talk to AppViewX, right? It could be a DevOps team consuming it, or it could be through an API or a GUI or any of those, right? Irrespective of how you consume the data, right? The audit or the tracking remains the same, right? And AppViewX can talk to a whole bunch of L2 to L7 devices, right? Change management system, ServiceNow, Remedy, Service Desk, Jira, whole bunch of things, right? The integrations are a growing list. The way we have built AppViewX, it's a modular low-code platform. So if there is a vendor or if there is a system that is not supported here, like say you use this inbuilt change management system, right? We are able to build a plugin which will basically integrate with it. So we built it in a way where it's a plugin based, right? And you can talk to a black box using the API and integrate and automate it. For example, when you want to roll out an application, right, you might need network services, which is you want to create a DNS entry, a global load balancer, DNS pointing to a CNAME of global load balancer, a global load balancer pointing to two F5 VIPs, and then that's pointing to multiple servers, and there needs to be a load, what do you call, health check setup, an extended validation health check. And might even need a certificate, and you might have to open certain firewall rules. What AppViewX does is basically takes that intent as to what you're trying to do, which application. You can even model it saying, set it up like application A, right? It can go set up DNS, set up wide IP, set up VIP, set up get the certificates. When setting up the VIP, it can go talk to DNS systems or IPAM systems to see which IP is free, and then set that up as a VIP, and then set up the servers and whatnot. All of that it can orchestrate, and then once it is done, it can validate those as well. That's what we are calling an orchestration system. So when we talk about service catalog, so you can create the individual orchestration flows. Like one of the flow is what I just told you, right? This could be one flow. Similarly, there could be different flows that you can build, and you can build that as a catalog, and you can publish it to the teams to say you can consume these, right? And that you can do it as a page. So you can build a page, and it's a easy, intuitive drag and drop capability. And with that, you can access control it and say, I have access to create this, to data center high available web configuration, right? And this can be integrated with the radius TACACs and whatnot. And so that service catalog can be attached to different personas. It can be application owner who is requesting those configurations, and he's giving the intent. It could be network administrator and security administrator. Let's look at what each one does here. So it just basically fills up the request, or it could be using a Terraform or Jenkins or whatnot, and then it's calling it using that. It just says what he wants to do, right? And then he can even have a customized dashboard where he can see details of his application and whatnot. And then there is network administrator, who is looking at primarily the box level status, right? If box is okay, if there is any vulnerabilities, if there is any challenges, we want to update a firmware, all those things. And then there is security engineer who's fine-tuning the more like the security rules, vulnerability product vulnerabilities, application vulnerabilities, maybe doing a scan and then updating it, or even managing the certificates and keys, making sure that they are compliant and whatnot. So you can create these different personas and have them go make those changes accordingly, right? So a use case that we, one of the customers using it is where AppViewX basically spins up a VM, whether it is in the cloud or OpenStack or any of those environments, right? It doesn't matter. Basically creates a DNS entry if it's external in Akamai DNS, and then or in QIP. Basically it creates a CNAME pointing to a GTM, which has a wide IP, which load balances across two data centers, and depending on where they're located, they're using F5 for local load balancing, and then it basically configures that. And then they get the certificates from PrimeKey, and then configures WAF also, and then proxy as well, and then updates the firewall rule. So AppViewX does all these things based on the request that the user provides. So this is the service catalog page. So it's a customizable page. We'll see this in the demo as to how you can set this up. You can build your own branding, your own logo, internal logos, internal brandings, and how you want to plan. Some of the customers, like a ride-hailing app, they have an internal branding. So they use that internal branding to apply. And then there is financial services who have given an internal name to this automation system, and they are using it with that internal branding. So and there are service providers who offer to other customers, right, where for each customer, they would have a customer logo, and based on that, they'll offer that as well. Different ways you can set this up. So let's quickly jump to the demo, and then we can come back to this. So I'll give you a quick sneak peek of what we can do. I don't want to bore you with all the data, but then you can always sign up for a demo, and then we can have a more detailed one-on-one discussions. Right now, we are just going to talk about a quick use case as to how you can set up an orchestration catalog, how we can create a self-service catalog, and whatnot, right? So let me jump to the studio. This is where all the magic happens in the workflow studio. As I said, I'm not going to go into each one of those. There are quite a wealth of information there. But right now, I will touch upon the key aspects. So this studio is where you basically build that orchestration flow, right? So in this, like I mentioned, there are different ways to consume these workflows. I'll show you how to do that in the service catalog as well. But real quick, here you can generate an API, and this tells you how you can call this particular request using an API, the post call and whatnot, right? Or you can actually click on Terraform. It will give you a Terraform provider. You can save that and you can manage that as well, right? It's a sample Terraform template to call this API. Similarly, there is a sample Ansible module which will give you how to call this particular. So like that, there are different samples that you could use. And in this case, what is happening is you are basically, there is a simple form which gets the user input. Now that user input is what I said, there are different ways to feed to that user input. And it talks to Infoblocks to get a free IP, and then talks to ServiceNow to create a ticket, a change ticket, and then creates the virtual server. Check if the ticket is approved, and once it is approved, then go and implement those changes into the device, right? Now this workflow is only for F5 with Infoblocks with creation. You can use this flow into a larger orchestration flow, right? All you need to do is you can go to solutions, right? And let's say this is a single touch provisioning workflow. I can just drag and drop this here. If I go here, right, it has a whole bunch of workflows. So let's go show you here. So installing a new VM on vSphere, right? I just drag and drop, and I map these in here, and that takes care of it, right? The way the mapping is done is there is a variable mapping, so you can click on this, and then if you click on the IO, it basically shows the different areas where that particular data is passed on to. I can click on another one. It basically tells me how each one is mapped onto, right? Here it will show you that the FQDN is passed on to Infoblocks to create that particular web and whatnot. So this has gone to a variable mapping mode, right? I just escape, I come back to the web mode, right? So here, each of those, see in this particular case, this Infoblocks integration, it's another flow. So it takes me to this flow, right? Let me show you this, right? Or F5 VIP, if that is a separate flow, if you double click on it, it will tell you what that means. This basically has its own form. There is a config creation, pre-validation, implementation, post-validation, rollback. All of this is created. This F5 virtual team has created this and published. And in this modular approach, they have used that particular capability to pull in here, right? So this gets mapped on to each one of those workflows, so those tasks, and you can map those and use this, right? So the idea is almost like a Lego block. You can build multiple Lego blocks and map them and then use them across, right? Similarly, now let's go look at the catalog. So here we go to the pages view. So in the pages, right, these are some of the pre-built pages that are there. So I can click on it to see that particular page as to how it is. These are some of the things that we have built for other customers. So, or even just for reference, let me go to the pages. I will show you the automation pages. So here I can click on preview to see how it looks, right? Or I can even go there and design a new page, right? I can either design from scratch, or I can take this existing one and use that to design, right? Here, what I have is, there are a whole bunch of, again, similar Lego blocks, right? I can have a button or even input HTML code. I can add some branding to it, or I can add some reporting there, different reports, out-of-the-box reports. There are different build your own reports capability as well. Or I can even create that workflow. The workflow that you saw there, you can basically take any one of those workflows. I can group those workflows in, and I can basically add these here, right? So let's say, for example, I want to give them a capability to create DNS, right? I can basically drag and drop. I can add that here, right? And then once I do this, here it shows all the DNS-based capability. So I can click on preview, and then it will show me how my page is going to look for my end customer, right? Here it is going to show the DNS capability that are there, right? You can basically create DNS records. So I can create this page, and I can make this the default page for that user group, right? So sort of gives you a capability to define what each of the groups or each of the users can do, and you can also give them a way to track their service requests and whatnot, right? And real quick on the request, like I showed you how the workflow studio is, right? How you can build the workflow and whatnot. So here, this is where it's more like an admin dashboard, right? This is more like the user dashboard. So let's take a workflow here that has been completed. Let's take certificate request workflow, right? You click on it. Here, this tells you what has happened. So this form, either user filled it, or a Terraform filled it, or it could be Jenkins or Ansible or API, whatnot, right? Irrespective of how it is filled, you're able to see this particular data. It's almost like a replay capability, because if the DevOps team is automating it, when there is a problem, the call comes to the F5 team, right? So for you need to be able to go back and see what they did and all that. So here is the request, and then you can go through the flow. If there is an approval needed, it tells you what configuration, what data, who approved it, and all that, and then how the implementation commands, and then how it was submitted and whatnot. In the F5's case, it'll have multiple steps. Every step that is there on the workflow, you will see those steps here, right? That's where that is. And then there is another important aspect, control center. This is where you're able to see, a pictorial view of the wide IP and VIP that was created. So let me pull this up. So this tells you the wide IP and the VIP and the real servers in there. It also gives you a state and status. I think there is some challenge updating it. So here you can also right-click and then see the details. It tells you which device has this VIP configuration. You can actually go highlight to this. It will tell you what device, what's the version, and whatnot. You can actually go view config and see its configuration. You can enable, disable. You can see the number of connections in each one of those. You will be able to see the state status. As I said, it's not right now. It's not our VPN is down, so it's not pulling the data. I can maybe show you another one transfer. Yeah, something like this is how it would show. I think this one has a lot of VIPs, but that's the idea, right? It sort of gives you whole bunch of details, and you can take a snapshot of that object configuration or this application configuration. You can view persistence records. You can even back up and restore that particular object. Whole bunch of things that you can do, right? And then there is dashboard where you can see a whole bunch of data about device, about objects, and whatnot. Right? I can talk about it, but it's a quick high-level overview on service orchestration and service catalog and other out-of-the-box capabilities as part of the product. Right? So if you have additional questions, or if you want to try out, you can sign up for a demo, sign up for a trial. You can go to try.appvx, or you can click on the try AppViewX button, and you can have either a live demo where we will talk about more detailed use cases, or more catered to you, right? Or you can even have an enterprise trial, which you can set up and use it on your environment. That I'll pause and I'll answer any questions that you might have. Okay.
Looks like we have one question.
Yeah. When you say cloud, do you integrate with CSP's management solution, provide standalone management? We do both, right? See, if you are not integrated with CSP, right, then we would basically talk directly to the device. And if we announced integration with Google's console, and we have integrations with AWS, Azure, and GCP as well, right? We use the console to connect for the services which are fully managed through that. Or if you want us directly to talk to the device, you could do that as well. Depending on how it is deployed, how you want to manage, there are a whole bunch of variables there. Okay, so that's good. Any other questions? If you have any questions, please type it there. Okay, it's another question, I guess. Use BigIQ with Ansible for automation. My application service infra has only BigIP. How will AppViewX help? So, good question. So, there are a whole bunch of capabilities that we offer. So, when you look at Ansible, right, it's a task automation. That's how I look at it, right? I'll give you a very simple use case that our customers have seen value. In the recent vulnerability that was announced, right, you need to upgrade the firmware. So what AppViewX did is basically it has a fully integrated workflow, which basically I can maybe share that workflow as well. Just give me 1 minute. What that is, it has fully automated that. Just switched, stop the sharing. So let me share again so that I can go back. So this is the workflow. So these are all pre-built workflows. Upgrade, a couple of upgrade things. So software upgrade is HA, BigIP, right? Now you could be using BigIQ or BigIP. So this flow, right, basically enables you to full upgrade F5 with all the checks. Basically gets a QK view and transfers the image, installs it on the standby, and then checks the HA status, backups the device, and then gets all the resources snapshot. And then it also gives you a notification as to pre and post, and then brings it offline, upgrades it, reboots it, and then gets the resources, compares it, and then does the failover and then enable auto sync or all those things, right? So this full process, right? There are a whole bunch of checks and balances. You want if there is a problem, if you have a manual check and all that. This you cannot do with Ansible, right? And you will not be able to have this closed loop capability, right? Where you go look at the status, you go look at the device, you look at the status of the whips and all that, and then based on that take a decision. So all those things this is what we call orchestration, right? So this is what is the value add, right? Now, like this, there are a whole bunch of other use cases where there is a lot more value that you get, and without having to configure and then work on those aspects, right? And we also integrate with BigIQ. So if you are using BigIQ to talk to F5, we do that as well. So it doesn't matter whether you use whether we talk directly or through VidIQ. I mean, if you want more detailed answer, more detailed use cases and all that, reach out to us. We can walk you through those aspects as well. All right. That's all. Is there any other questions? Okay. That's good. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, reach out to me or reach out to us at info@appviex.com, and we'll be glad to answer your questions.